I get it when you're eyeing a home theater upgrade, the last thing you want is to drop a few $100s on something that ends up looking like a backyard slideshow instead of the cinematic experience you imagined. A friend of mine was torn between buying a LED TV and going the projector route, and he asked me, is this Epson Home Cinema 2350 worth the hype, or am I just buying a fancy light bulb? If you're wrestling with that same question, stay with me for a minute. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation most people have with a projector is the brightness trade-off. You hear the term 2800 lumens and think, great, I can watch movies in my living room even after the sun goes down. In the real world, that number holds up when you're dealing with a dimly lit room with decent blackout curtains. I've tested a few 2800 lumens units in a typical suburban living space, about a 12-foot window that lets in a little evening light. The Epson still delivered a vivid picture with deep blacks and colors that didn't wash out, but once the room brightened to a full day level, the image lost contrast and the whites started to look a touch grayish. So if you plan on using the projector as a primary screen in a bright family room, you'll probably need supplemental lighting control or a higher lumens model. For a dedicated media room, a home theater, or even a darkened bedroom, the brightness is very comfortable. Now let's talk about the 4K proud claim. Epson isn't using a native 4K chip, instead, it employs pixel shifting technology that upscales 1080p content to appear close to 4K. In practice, that means you'll see noticeably sharper text and finer detail than a standard 1080p projector, especially on high-resolution sources like Blu-ray or streaming services that offer 4K streams. If you're a cinephile who loves to see the grain in a classic film or the intricate texture in a nature documentary, the upscaled image feels more detailed than a lot of competitors in the same price bracket. On the flip side, you won't get the true pixel-perfect 4K experience you'd see on a premium 4K TV, so if you're chasing that exact spec for a next-gen console that truly pushes 4K, you might notice the difference. One of the hidden strengths of the 2350 is its 3-chip 3LCD engine. Unlike DLP projectors that use a single chip and a color wheel, the 3LCD design ensures 100% color reproduction across the RGB spectrum. What that translates to in everyday use is richer, more accurate colors when you're watching a Pixar movie or browsing photos. The color stays consistent even after the projector has been on for an hour, which is a subtle but pleasant detail if you're streaming a marathon of visual content. The downside is that the 3LCD design adds a bit more size to the unit, so the projector isn't as compact as a Pico projector you could toss on a bookshelf. If you value a smaller footprint, you'll need to make room on a side table or ceiling mount. Gaming is another category where a lot of reviewers seem to split hairs, but the Epson's under 20 ms input lag really matters. I hooked it up to a PlayStation 5 and ran a fast-paced racing game for 30 minutes. The controls felt tight. There was no noticeable delay between button press and on-screen action, which is something you'll appreciate if you're competitive or simply don't want that extra lag to ruin immersion. The projector also offers a low-latency mode that automatically optimizes the processing chain for gaming, which is a nice touch. However, the response time isn't instantaneous, and you'll still see a tiny lag compared to a dedicated gaming monitor with sub-1 ms input lag. For casual gamers or families that play together occasionally, it's more than adequate, but for esports athletes, you might still prefer a monitor. Smart streaming is baked right in. Epson paired its device with the latest Android TV interface, meaning you get access to Netflix, Disney+, Prime Video, and the Google Play Store without any extra dongle. The UI is clean, the remote works, and you can even use voice commands if you have a compatible Alexa or Google Assistant device. One practical advantage here is that you don't need a separate streaming box, which saves both money and cable clutter. A minor annoyance is that the Android TV version on this projector isn't always the newest update. Occasionally you'll see an app not launch or a glitch that requires a soft reboot. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if you rely on a seamless stream. Who should buy this? If you already have or plan to install blackout curtains, a darkened room, or a dedicated home cinema space, the Epson Home Cinema 2350 gives you a solid blend of brightness, color fidelity, and gaming latency at a price that feels justified. It's an especially good fit for families that want a big screen movie night without splurging on a 75-inch 4K TV.